Lufthansa. Hi. Yeah, I'm checking in this afternoon, and I am bringing 2 chairs with me. The kind of chairs that your uncle and auntie had to Croatia, yeah. €900 each. Have I done a swab on the chairs? No. Look, I'm happy to pay a reasonable sum, but at €1,800 for 2 chairs is not a reasonable sum, I would suggest. It's quite important, yeah. Yes, it's quite important. What you're looking at here is a chap who's been likened really to Elon Musk, but possibly less weird on social media. His name is Mate Rimac. He runs the Rimac company, and you're 10 years younger than me, and you've done possibly 100 times more things than me. I do feel slightly inferior, but thank you for coming, sitting down and spending some time with us on the Late Break Show. My chairs have gone into quarantine, but I'm really pleased that you've managed to find some suitable replacements.
Yeah.
They're a bit dodgy.
Actually, the crazy thing is that we are renting these. I have no idea where we found like renting old shitty chairs. Yeah, and I think we are paying more than they are worth.
No, I feel terrible. Didn't realise you rented them. I thought you just found them in a skip.
I'm really interested in the backstory. How did we find something like this to rent?
There's cigarette stains on them and all sorts.
It's proper. It's like
you looked at my chairs, the idle chat chairs, and you'd really tried to channel the authenticity.
Yeah, and as Chris Harris said, like we did the DNA test, it has lots of DNA on it.
I first heard about you, I reckon it was 2008, 2000 and something like that. And I remember when you had the green BMW, and I got in contact with you because I was deeply impressed by what you were trying to achieve. And then when I started to come up with the idea of building my own electric race car, I thought, well, this guy already has a pretty good idea of what he's doing. He's already set some, what do you call it, records. So I thought, and you were really good. I remember you always emailed me back, you were always really encouraging. Little did I realise what would happen 3 years later, 5 years later, 10 years later.
And you can't imagine what will happen in the next 10 years.
I know. Well, this is the thing about you. You're very forward-facing, aren't you? I think you're always looking ahead. Don't know where you get your energy from.
You know, that's something people ask me, like, are you surprised about where the company is now? And I'm like, no. When I started the company, I wanted to do great things.
Yeah.
And I had a very clear business plan at the beginning.
Yeah.
And of course, we are miles away from that. I expected at that time to build many cars and maybe do a little bit of stuff for other car companies.
Yeah.
That has turned around. Our main business is doing stuff for other car companies and
Yes.
doing very low volume cars.
Yeah.
But I set out to do this, to build something great.
Yeah.
And I thought you can achieve it much faster.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
With a lot less money, with a lot less people.
Yeah.
You know, I thought I will never have more than 100 employees. Now we have 1,000. So
And this is just the start, you think?
Absolutely. I feel like we just built the foundations of the company. Like, I have this vision for chapter 1 of the company, and I see chapter 1 closed when we are in our campus, which is something amazing. Check it out.
Such a big, I mean, yeah, that's such a big first chapter that you incorporate the campus idea.
Yeah, campus is chapter 1. Shipping cars every week around the world from that campus,
Yeah.
and being the best at what we do, being the highest performance, best electric hypercars.
Yes.
And shipping hundreds or thousands of batteries and powertrain systems, truckloads and truckloads of components and systems to the likes of Porsche, Mercedes, Hyundai, whatever, all the other OEMs that we work with.
Yeah.
For me, that's chapter 1.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we start from there and start chapter 2, which is going to be something on another scale.
When you were at school, like when you were a kid, how did you see yourself? What were your skills? What were your interests?
I was born in, at that time it was Yugoslavia, but in what is today Bosnia. Today Bosnia is the poorest country in Europe, and where I'm from is the poorest part of Bosnia.
Okay.
So there were no streets, no cars basically. It was very agricultural. It's probably like the UK 200 years ago. So
Wow.
like both my parents didn't have toilets and running water in their houses at the time. They didn't have electricity. So it was that much backward.
Gosh.
And I was just crazy about cars since before I could walk or talk.
Yeah.
And then the war started there when I was 2 years old, and we emigrated to Germany.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden there was cars everywhere. So, you know, I was just walking around and going crazy about all of these cars there. So I don't have any background in the family about cars, but for some reason I was absolutely insane about it, born with it. I don't know why.
There's something clicked.
Yeah, I think like now looking back, it's just a fascination of the car because it's such a, it's a machine that combines everything humanity knows.
Yeah.
Science, art, because of design, and
Yeah.
much more than design, everything counts in a car. That's the difference between a car and a plane. In a plane you have a trained operator who doesn't care how it sounds like when you close the door or the click of the button. It just has to work.
As long as it works. Yeah.
In the car, everything matters. When
Yeah.
you walk up to it, how will the lights turn on? When you close the door, what's the clunk of the door closing? The button on the door and the button on the steering wheel have to feel the same and click the same. And the transitions between screens on the, you know, all of this stuff matters. The smells in the car matter, everything. So it's art. It really
It's
art.
soulful. It has to emotionally connect with you.
Yeah, so I was just crazy about cars, and all my life I was somehow doing something about it. So either drawing, you know, cars all the time in school. My mother still keeps like the
Really?
yeah, and all my friends from school, I have very bad memory, so I don't remember things, but they all tell me like, you know, you were all the time drawing cars and stuff like that. I was buying all the magazines I could get my hands on and reading everything from beginning to end. So I knew the size of the piston of every high-performance motorcycle, the size of the diameter of their brake discs. I
You
went so far.
memorized that stuff.
I was just so crazy. I was reading it from beginning to end. I was just so crazy. And that was before YouTube. And I think growing up in Germany was a big part of that because they had car shows. And the problem was there was, on 2 channels, there was like 2 shows at the same time. So I was like, how can I watch both? And like when one had, you know, commercials, I would jump to the next.
Yeah.
We came back to Croatia, moved back 10 years later as a family. And I went to high school here. I liked technical stuff, so I built something in my garage and stuff like that. And for graduation in high school in Croatia, I had, like this school where I was going, it was the mechatronics school, so like mechanics and electronics worked really well with my obsession. So for graduation you have to build something, and I just had the idea. So this was like 2005, so before the iPhone, or 2004, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Of like devices will be connected to the internet. So that was the time when the best TVs had still a SCART, you know, no HDMI, no internet connection and so on.
Yeah.
I thought like televisions and all kinds of stuff will be connected to the internet. People want to interact with it, but don't want to use the keyboard, like when you're on your couch and so on. So I built a glove that replaced the keyboard and mouse, and just as like graduation project. And my professor was pushing me to go to this like school competition, and I surprised myself by winning, and then they sent me to the national or to the like county level.
Yeah.
I won that as well, and then to the national level, where I didn't have any expectations, but okay, I'll go represent my school, and I won there as well. And then they sent me all over the world internationally to compete for Croatia. And the first time I was sitting in a plane and going somewhere without my parents was when Croatia sent me to South Korea to compete with that.
I hope you're still friends with your professor.
Yes, absolutely. He brings his kids to the company, and I try to support them. And yeah, they are. I mean, without him, I wouldn't be here. I realized along the way now that the idea is nothing, and you don't have to protect your idea. You don't have to be cautious about it. Nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about your idea. What's hard is to do it.
Yeah.
So this was just useful for me to get confidence, to learn how to do something without, you know, with limited know-how, with limited time, with limited budget,
Yeah.
and it has to work on the day when you present. You know, it gave me just the self-confidence that I can do something good. My first car was first generation Skoda Octavia, and it
Okay.
was brilliant.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think my second car was the Volkswagen Passat 2.0 diesel, which was also a great car.
TDI, yeah, that was good era for diesel,
Yeah.
those ones. Okay, and then you have you ever had any other motorbikes?
When we returned from Germany and came to Croatia, it was strange for me because in Germany I was going with the underground subway to school, and
Yeah.
everything was, in a big city. And then we were like in a village without lights and without way for pedestrians, like a pedestrian.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it was terrible. And like the kids were coming to school with these little scooters and motorcycles, so I begged my parents to buy me one. And I got this Peugeot Speedfight scooter.
I know the Speed Fight.
I loved it. It was an X-Race model. I have to buy one. I really want to buy one because that was the world for me. That was the world for me.
The Speed Fight, yeah. It's
And-
quite a stylish moped, that.
Oh, it was beautiful. And
Yeah.
actually, I put a 5.1 sound system into it.
What?
Yeah, so 4 speakers and the subwoofer where the helmet goes, with the MP3 player, with the CD player,
Did you really?
Yeah, and like,
A subwoofer in the helmet carrier.
yeah, and I tuned it like with the exhaust, and it was really cool. Like that was my first like project.
How old were you then?
14, 15, 16, something like that.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
in Croatia you could do a driver's license for a 50cc scooter when you were 14.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was doing so insane things with that, like wheelies, front wheel,
stoppies, yeah.
stoppies to the ground, and driving when it was snowing, when it was ice on the road, when it was raining. I didn't care. I was just on it all the time. It was the greatest thing in my life. I loved it.
It's freedom.
And fell off of it. And then one day, a truck hit me and broke the bike. And I got a little bit of insurance money. So I wanted to buy another motorcycle, but my mother was like, no way. Me and my friend, we were crazy about the Aprilia 125. It looked like a race bike. It was just 125cc, 2-stroke engine.
Yeah.
So I convinced my father to buy me another motorcycle. And we went to way of Aprilia. And I really hoped he would buy it, but he didn't want to because it looked like a
sports bike.
Sports bike.
Yeah, I remember the model. Yeah.
So, but on the way to there was a Ducati dealership, and I, didn't want to stop in Ducati because there was no small bikes. There was just like the smallest one was 620cc.
Yeah.
But he said like, let's stop there, just see what they have. I was like, okay, let's stop. But the Aprilia shop is there. So we went in there, and there was the best salesman I ever saw in my life. He convinced my father that a air-cooled 2-valve per cylinder, 620cc Ducati Monster, the old model.
Yeah, I know
like,
the Monster. Yeah.
Yeah, so he had a used one there, and he convinced him that this is a beginner's bike.
What?
He convinced him that, and I was, I think, 18 or 17.
And your dad did it,
And he did it, and he bought me this Ducati.
He bought you a 600 Monster.
And I cannot believe that I'm alive. I cannot tell you how many situations I had where I nearly died. And of course...
This would have never came to be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've suddenly become, when I say suddenly, it's not that sudden, but the go-to person for high voltage integration or tech, or I don't know how you'd call it, but...
We call it high-performance EV systems.
Yeah.
So when somebody wants to make a high-performance hybrid or electric car,
Yeah.
they come to us. So the first 3 guys that I hired, and actually one of them is right here behind the camera, I had to convince their wives that it's okay for them to give up their jobs and work for a 20-year-old guy at the time. Actually, another friend who is very important for that whole thing is sitting right here. So we were like, we were on a racetrack with my E30
Yeah.
when it had still a combustion engine. So 2.5, 6-cylinder,
Yeah.
1984 car.
Yeah.
People think I was a race car driver, but I wasn't. I had 2 races, drift races, because that was the easiest way to start. Like you buy an old BMW,
Of course.
you put a high ratio differential into it, weld it, and have a bunch of old tires, and that's it. So for 3,000 euros, you start racing.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I started racing. I had 2 races, and then this maniac over there, and I went on a racetrack, and he wanted to try the car, And of course, having the short gear ratio on the straight, it went, you know, into the limiter immediately. And he was like just keeping it in the limiter, and poof.
Killed it.
Yeah, so
Did you do that?
he is the reason why all of that started.
And your car, the Concept 1, was that the first electric hypercar?
At the same time, Mercedes came with the SLS E-Cell,
Ah, yes.
but that's not really you couldn't call it really a hypercar, but let's say that's the closest thing to it. So
Yeah.
the Concept 1 was the first electric hypercar, yeah. But it's hard to think back. It's hard to look back in a time and realize how crazy of an idea that was. The real idea I had was to build in a V8 from a E39 M5.
Yeah.
But at that time, they were really expensive.
Yeah.
And some people in the US have done that already, and even B-turbo versions, and like, wow, that's what I wanted to do. They were just too expensive. So the other idea I had was like combining the electronics that I was doing before, like passion for electronics and for cars, and making an electric car. And especially being from Croatia, I read a lot about Nikola Tesla.
Yeah.
And through my professor, you know, he was telling us about it, and I was researching this and thinking about the electric motor, and it's such a perfect machine. Why is nobody using it to make an electric sports car? And what I wanted to say is, you know, I put all of this on paper and I showed it to him and some other people, and they were just telling me, are you insane? Like, what the hell are you talking about?
Did they?
Because at that time, electric cars were totally, nobody talked about them.
No.
Nobody knew about it. Tesla was just starting. That was a time when Martin Eberhard was running Tesla.
Yeah.
Nobody knew who Elon Musk was.
No.
So Elon Musk was an investor in Tesla. Martin Eberhard was the CEO and founder of Tesla.
Yeah.
I was following Tesla already at that time, but the Roadster wasn't out. So it just seemed like a totally insane thing. You had a small scene of people in the US doing, you remember maybe the White Zombie?
Of course I do, John Wayland.
I read every word this guy wrote.
And me too, it had such a profound effect on me, that car.
Yeah, exactly. I never met him, but I would really like to shake his hand. So I built the first version of E30 into an electric car. It was still white. It was 2008, I think.
Yeah.
And then I met Igor. He was in the Croatian army, and Croatia had an embargo during the war. They couldn't buy weapons.
Yeah.
So they had to be self-sufficient, and he was responsible for drones. So he himself built his own drones without being able to purchase anything from outside of Croatia.
Wow, so a resourceful guy.
Very resourceful. And his late father had like a little mechanic shop. So he had a garage that was heated and that had equipment in it. So I met Igor and we moved the project to his garage. We worked like late nights and weekends and driving the neighbors nuts because we were like cutting and welding in 3 in the morning. That time was the best time for me because we were going to these drag races and different kinds of races, but primarily drag races with an electric car. Why drag races? Because all the other races at that time, like rally, were categorized by displacement of the engine. They were categorizing the cars based on their quarter-mile time. So from, 9-second car, 10-second car, 11-second car. So I could go there, and the first time I showed up there, they were like, what?
What?
What are you doing with the washing machine? I heard all the jokes, like, can we charge our phones on the car and stuff like that. And at first, they were laughing, and I had lots of problems. The motor would start burning. It was a forklift motor. The batteries would start burning and stuff like that. But after every race, Igor and me went back to the garage and improved the car. And 7 times we changed it completely, everything.
7?
7 times. It was first like 2 motors on the original gearbox,
Yeah.
the adapter plate with the clutch.
Yeah.
And that, of course,
Died.
died very soon. Then we removed the gearbox, straight connected to the prop shaft, and then the differential broke. Then instead of having 2 motors, I went for 1 bigger motor. We repaired the car, improved it, it became faster, and on the weekends we would see the result. No emails, no people waiting for you, just working on the car, going on the weekend.
Single-minded focus, yeah.
Yeah, and that was the best time. But I started at the same time the company. And the company was actually called V equals ST. It's like the formula for speed.
Yes.
The company was supposed to do conversions. So I had this webpage, vstconversions.com. We had different power stages and different ranges, different battery sizes.
Yeah.
And the business idea was convert cars to electric. I did like 2 or 3 projects. I realized it doesn't work.
Let's look at the e-bikes, because this is your company again that you set up. I know the e-bike world has gone crazy, hasn't it? You were pretty early in the e-bike world. Cool looking things.
This is actually the
Crazy
most
looking.
fun you can have. Like having a few friends on this is the best thing. Like I do it unfortunately far too rarely, but when 3 or 4 or 5 of us get on these things and go somewhere, it's the best thing ever. Like we have so much fun
This
doing
is
that.
more like your Peugeot Speed Fight
Yes,
than
yes.
that.
But it's more, it's about competition. Like this is fully connected and stuff like that. And it, for example, measures how much energy you put in through the pedals. So you know exactly how much human power you put in and how much battery power. Actually, when the weather is nice, I take the bike to work every day.
Do you?
Yeah, this is the best transportation device for me. I can enjoy the nature. I don't get mad on the road because of idiot drivers. That's the best thing for
You
me.
can
I
probably
would
out-accelerate a lot of cars in traffic.
absolutely,
Yeah.
and I experience my environment in a totally different way, and I would have never known about it if I didn't go to work with the bike. So
Yeah.
you experience the surroundings in a totally different way.
Yeah.
So this was our first bike, which was totally insane. It's like a motorcycle. You push the throttle and it makes a wheelie. It's like you can drive it on throttle like a motorcycle.
Right.
12 kilowatts, so 15 horsepower. Absolutely crazy. Goes 100 kilometers per hour. This one is pedal assist. Has just a fraction of the power, so 250 watts.
Yeah.
So from 12 kilowatts to 250 watts.
This is illegal on the road,
Well,
sort of.
we made a little trick there. It is, basically, but we made a trick. So when you start it up, so this was like 7 years ago. When you start it up with your fingerprint, with this it goes to street mode, which is like street legal, 25 kilometers per hour and 250 watts.
Yeah.
With this, it has a little bit more power, and this is the speed mode.
Oh, so different fingers.
Yeah.
So the middle finger
Activates the.
is speed mode.
Yeah.
Developing
Yeah. So
e-bikes.
so this one is quite expensive. It starts with €4,500, ends with 7,000. But we are bringing cheaper models on the market, and it's quite cool. Like it has cameras front and rear, so it does all of the filming for you. You can upload it straight from the bike to YouTube or to Instagram or whatever. You can do competitions. It's a really cool bike. You know, Tesla showed it 10 years ago how to build a bespoke electric car that's built on an electric car platform. 10 years later now, when companies come out with electric cars, big car companies, and they're not all in, but use combustion engine platforms, they don't hold up to a 10-year-old car. It still happens today.
Yeah, it does. It's happening
So
right now, yeah.
it's totally insane. They invest so much money and they bring electric cars to the market, and then they say, but people don't buy electric cars. Yes, because you made a shitty car. Sorry. Tesla has shown how to make an electric car 10 years ago. You cannot come with something today that costs more and has less range, but the fundamentals are bad.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. So I wanted to make not an environmentally friendly car, but a cool car.
A cool zero tailpipe emission car. Or,
That was a side effect.
okay.
The point was to use the potential of the electric motor to do better things. For example, having 4 motors and each being able to control each wheel separately, insane accelerations. Of course, downsides as well, higher weight, difficult packaging with the battery and so on.
Yeah.
But in balance, it's an interesting car, especially for people who have more cars, which is people that have hypercars, like an average Bugatti customer has 50 cars.
Really?
Yeah. So imagine now, you are a hypercar owner, and you have, you know, people say, what about sound? Yeah, but that guy has 10 cars that have a V12. He has 10 cars that have a V8.
Yeah.
So you have a Lamborghini and a Ferrari, you know, and then you have another option with 4 electric motors, and you know, okay, it doesn't have the sound maybe, but many other things.
But it's got something, yeah. When was the last time that Elon Musk spoke to you?
I never spoke to Elon. I deliberately didn't want to, so many people wanted to introduce me, but I want to finish chapter 1, and you know, you only make a first impression once.
Yeah.
And I'm not happy with the level of our company. I mean, you saw today when you went through the company how much mess we have, how much stuff is, you know, around, and people on people, and
You're very hard on yourself, though. I mean, I know that there was a bit of mess here and there today, but I mean, what you've achieved is incredible.
Thanks,
I mean,
Jonny.
look at the car, look at the dedication, look at the obsession.
But
You
it's
don't-
not Elon Musk level. So, yeah.
I hope you get to meet him. I'm sure you will.
Sooner or later, yes. I want to have all the cars that have our systems in them.
Koenigsegg.
That's the problem. Yeah. The Aston Martin Valkyrie, Koenigsegg Regera, Pininfarina Battista.
Can you tell me about the Richard Hammond crash?
Of course, road legal and everything. Not breaking any laws.
You don't own any of the cars that your company built?
Because they are €2 million.
Yeah, well, I know that. I know that. That's why I don't own one.